Texaco, which is now taken over by Chevron, made the northern Ecuadorian Amazon as their source of oil from 1964 to 1992. Considering its relatively small size, Ecuador was considered as one of 17 megadiverse countries that harbors the majority of Earth's species. Ecuador is also a home of native indigenous groups. These people care about the nature that surrounds them because they drink water from the rivers and use them for fishing, bathing, and cooking. They also get some natural resources such as food from the environment.
Yo siento como muy triste primeramente porque la verdad de eso como se siente olor y ese viendo crudo muy espesa es como ya siento como dolor de cabeza a mí misma y yo eso viendo como para mí yo veo que es muy triste que está terminando la tierra, contaminada el aire, no solo tierra, y cuando llueve se va al río contaminando y va contaminando los comemos pescado, lo que comen los compas, ya están, no es como natural, ya está contaminado.
Throughout the operation years of Chevron at Ecuador, they destroyed the home of the indigenous people by doing an inappropriate job on taking the resources. The company did not follow the protocol that caused the environmental pollution. Oil extraction requires the proper way of extracting oil and segregating wastewater.
Hizo una operación en la Amazonia norte de Ecuador, de forma intencional contaminó la Amazonia norte de Ecuador. Los pueblos indígenas le seguimos un juicio, le hemos ganado el juicio, está la sentencia en firme y Chevron se niega a pagar. Estamos en esa batalla para que pague lo que nos debe. Ese es todo el caso.
These are the steps that Chevron violated during the operations at Ecuador. Chevron chose not to reinject toxic wastewater into the ground. Instead, the company installed some pipes to drain toxic wastewater into rivers and streams. Chevron chose not to line its waste the way it had done in the United States, allowing toxins to seep into the soil and contaminate groundwater often relied on by local inhabitants for their drinking water rather than properly dispose the toxic sludge in the unlined pits. Chevron chose to leave it there. The company installed pipes to transport the sludge and contaminate rainwater into nearby streams rather than capture the toxic natural gas during extraction. Chevron burned off the gases, a process known as flaring, producing huge flames, releasing dioxins into the environment. This blatant pollution and destruction took place right in the backyards of the indigenous people.
The contaminated area is now 1,500 square miles as the toxic pits continue to spread out for a period of time. The company itself estimated that over 16 billion gallons of toxic waste are now in Amazon. However, some studies said that it's actually more than 16 to 18 billion gallons. In fact, the company told the indigenous people that the black oil in the water was full of vitamins and minerals as they continue to use the rivers and streams on their basic needs such as bathing and fishing. Scientists found chemicals on the contaminated bodies of water that damages human immune system. The exposure of human to total petroleum hydrocarbons or TPH can cause diseases like brain damage, respiratory diseases, blood poisoning, stomach irritation, skin irritation, miscarriage, and other specific diseases. Cancer rates were 30 times higher than normal and the incidence of childhood leukemia was found to have reached alarming levels. 2,000 people have died from cancer due to toxins and polluted water and air.
Chevron raced to move the case from the United States federal court to Ecuador. The company even made affidavits praising the transparency of Ecuador's judicial system. After the lawsuit was filed, Chevron made a deal with the government to spend $40 million to cover the waste pits by covering it with dirt without removing the toxins, which continuously contaminated the soil and the groundwater. The company called this action as remediation and convinced the Ecuador's government and its people that what they called remediation was effective. Also, the oil company released some laboratory test results proving that remediation cleaned up the contamination, considering that Chevron exposed the people to the pollution higher than the acceptable rate levels under either the United States or the Ecuadorian law. According to the company, an oil company is allowed to discharge petroleum hydrocarbons in Ecuador 100 times more than the US law. The company never explained the reason behind this statement.
Throughout the trials, UDAPT stated that Chevron tried to sabotage by means of political pressure and threatening of international legal proceedings. According to Chevron, the indigenous people, the peasants and their lawyers, had unlawfully associated themselves to extort money from the company, and the company took legal actions in that line. That is, the company pictured itself as the victim and the indigenous people and the peasants as the criminals.
Having lost repeatedly in international courts, the lawyers behind the Ecuadorian judicial fraud against Chevron are once again resorting to PR stunts like dishonest toxic tours in the Amazon to advance their extortion scheme. As unanimously confirmed recently by an international tribunal, including an arbitrator appointed by the government of Ecuador, existing environmental and social conditions in the region are exclusively the responsibility of Ecuador's government and its state oil company, Petroecuador.
Although, according to Chevron Corporation, during the racketeering trial against Steven Donziger, one of the lawyers in his team, Chevron presented unrebutted evidence detailing the extent of the fraudulent acts undertaken and directed by Donziger, including fabricating environmental evidence, pressuring scientific experts to falsify reports, plotting to intimidate judges into handing down favorable rulings, bribing court-appointed experts, ghostwriting court reports, and even drafting the final judgment. After years of Chevron's more destructive actions, the Ecuadorian law found Chevron liable and the company needed to pay for $18 billion for a cleanup and to compensate the affected rainforest communities. However, the hearings went on a continuous loop to different states such as Argentina, Brazil, Canada, and the United States. Until to this day, Chevron maintained that it never owned any assets in Ecuador.
Hemos visto la compañía viene solo para destruir nuestra selva, solo para contaminar nuestro río, solo para contaminar nuestro ambiente y dar nuevas enfermedades que no sabemos y la muerte, eso que hemos recibido de la compañía. Por eso nosotros como Fundación Alianza Seibo formamos 4 nacionalidades porque ya no queremos esperar que venga la compañía para indemnizar, remediar y cuándo. Hasta ahora, mira, 1973 hasta ahora son varios años y esperar a ellos cuándo vamos a solucionar ese problema de contaminación.
Steve Donziger, an American human rights lawyer, is one of the famous names who fought against Chevron. He sued Chevron, won in 2011 alongside a $9.5 billion class action settlement against Chevron, but with the blessing of a federal judge, Chevron has used the U.S. courts to avoid paying out. On 2014, U.S. District Judge Lewis Kaplan in New York ruled that corrupt beans were used by Ecuador's legal team to win the 2011 case. After the latest ruling in The Hague, a lawyer for the indigenous communities criticized the Ecuadorian government for accepting the case to an arbitration court. That is playing Chevron's game and leaving the crime unpunished forever, said Pablo Fajardo. Last 2018, Chevron Corporation said that an international tribunal ruled in its favor in an environmental dispute with Ecuador, finding the South American nation had violated its obligations under international treaties. The tribunal unanimously held that a $9.5 billion pollution judgment by Ecuador's Supreme Court against Chevron was procured through fraud, bribery, and corruption, and was based on claims that had already been settled and released by the Republic of Ecuador years earlier.
De selva, nosotros viviremos en la selva porque selva, territorio, nos da vida a nosotros. El dinero no es vida. Dinero se acaba mañana. Para mí es eso, yo veo, dinero no, dinero mañana se acaba. ¿Qué es importante? Importante es agua, tierra, bosque, es vida para nosotros. Como mujeres, porque nosotros nacimos y nuestros abuelos defendieron y así vamos a defender nuestro territorio.